Hi, welcome back to Waxing On, Part 3, Grateful Dead Week. And today we're looking at a live concert. And as the saying goes, there's no better dead than live dead. They had a reputation for putting out live albums that people thought were superior to what they were doing in the studios. And that their live performances really captured all that magic. This one was recorded in 1980. I'm just going to read off here. September to October 1980, and live concerts in San Francisco and New York. Now, they recorded so much material that was usable, they couldn't put it all on one album. So they did two albums. The one we're going to look at is one called Reckoning, and the other one was called Dead Set. Now, the Reckoning album was more acoustic, which really appealed to me. I mean, a chance just to hear them up there playing was not quite as electric as what we got on, the Dead Set. But to me, it showed that whole other side of the band. It's what I liked about Working Man's Dead. I like the acoustic, and there's some great tunes on there, some great guitar work and vocals. I mean, it's just a great set of music. We'll get to that in just a second, what's on the album. We got Garcia, Weir, Lesh, Myland, Kreutzmann, and Hart. So the standard lineup that we talked about all week. The original release, 16 songs on the album. Now I went online and there are some reissues, but if you go even to some of the streaming networks, I think it's still the basic 16 songs. There's not a lot of extra in there, but there's no shortage of extra live recordings of some of these tunes. If you go on, they have pulled out old concert tapes. They encourage people to self-tape when they were there. Some of those bootlegs got released. So the versions of these are just what was there during that time period. It maybe show up on another album and have a whole different feel to it. I'm just going to give you a rundown of what's on here. Maybe some of these will sound familiar to you. "16 tunes. We start off with Dire Wolf. We talked about that last week with Working Man's Dead. The Race is On. Now that's funny. That's an old country tune, George Jones tune, and yet Dead pull it off. I mean, it really works well. And they did the same thing with Merle Haggard's Mama Tried. You'd think of it. How would you associate that with these guys? But they do great versions of these. Baby It Ain't No Lie. Must Have Been the Roses. A traditional old blues tune called Dark Hollow. China Doll, Been All Around This World, and that's another traditional tune. I'll tell you, they do a great version of that as well. Monkey and the Engineer, kind of a fun tune in there. Jackaroe, Deep Elm Blues, Cassidy, To Lay Me Down, Rosalie McPhail, On the Road, another traditional tune, On the Road Again, and the Bird Song. So that was their set. It's fun because, like I say, to me, the acoustic stuff was great. To actually hear their guitar playing and hear them do those acoustic tunes, it was really a nice change from some of the other albums. And again, to hear it live, it was special. They got some great live albums. Now, there are some things about the live albums you've got to be aware of. With the other albums, there were time limits. They cut songs down. They had the usual kind of routine. With live, sometimes it got into the long jams. Some of those songs get pretty long. That was one of the reasons Jerry said they had to split this up into two albums, because some of their live tunes might be 8-9 minutes long. So they could only put two songs on the side of an album back in those days, because, the vinyl, you were restricted to your time. And they didn't want to just have a double album set with, 2, 4, 6, 8 songs on it. So they kind of split them up a bit, and that's why you've got Dead Set and you've got Reckoning. Now, there is another one, too, that's a great album if you get a chance to check out, was the Skull and Roses I talked about earlier. Another 2-record set live. If you've never heard them live, these are 2 albums that are a good place to start. Reckoning was great for the acoustic. If you're into that kind of thing, and like I say, it really featured Jerry a lot again, which I liked. And the Skull and Roses had a lot of great tunes on it. But on that one, gosh, I'm looking at here to see the band's first album to be certified gold. And they were using John Phillips music, Chris Christopherson music, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, Bob Dylan. All kinds of great guys on there that are writing. in addition to what they had written. Now, both albums, again, these things available online. Hard copies, sure, a little pricey. iTunes, I mean, I still use iTunes. I don't know about any of you guys. I know a lot of people nowadays are into streaming. From my area, we love the albums. I had the tapes, but they were kind of short on extras. But iTunes is kind of a nice option. I'm getting the portability of it, but I'm also putting more money in the pocket of the musicians. So these albums, all of my Grateful Dead albums are iTunes purchases, because by that time I wasn't really buying albums and you couldn't find them up here. iTunes gave me the opportunity to explore their catalog. Original release in 16 tunes. You may find subsequent releases. There were subsequent ones that added a few extra songs. I think on the streaming networks it's basically still the same 16. It was an interesting album because I'd really never heard much live. Obviously my two albums before were studio albums, and to hear what they did live, some excellent music. Now, that being said, I read a story. Grateful Dead played a gig in Toronto. Yeah, we're back to Toronto again. A concert. And one of the guys that went to it, he was asked, what was the concert like? How exciting was it? And he said, well, let me tell you this. You put the album on, listen to it, hold up a picture of the band and stare at that for 2 hours. That's just about the same thing. Apparently, not a lot of interaction between the band and the audience. And I know Jerry's been quoted as that too, saying it was more about the music. He didn't want to get up there and start chit-chatting or trying to make jokes or do things. The band came out and performed. And there wasn't a lot of, again, interaction. It wasn't a big show. I mean, they're not like talking Alice Cooper Kiss where they're putting on a big show. The band was playing the music and giving that honesty, and that was it. Yeah, visually, maybe it wasn't as exciting as some of the other acts of around that time. But musically, yeah, they had a great following. I mean, we all know the history of the Deadheads and how they toured from concert to concert and followed the band around. And, you know, they had all kinds of albums. They were, not albums, tapes they were making and trading them off with each other. It was a whole culture in itself. It's very addictive. But it was different from what other bands were experiencing. Live albums, hey, I'll listen to it and look at that album jacket. You got that right. I'll do that. And it's just great stuff to entertain yourself with. So, wrapping it up, Reckoning. Acoustic live album from the 1980s. Well worth checking out. Okay, some great music this week. If you get a chance, check out some of the Grateful Dead's catalog. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday, and we'll be back with another featured artist for the week. Hope to see you then. Take care, stay safe. Thanks for stopping by.